The workers needed. Mrs. Ellen White. The work of God demands true, staunch, wholehearted, spiritual-minded men, men who are in earnest, and who have a clear understanding of what is truth, men who are not fashioned after a worldly mold, but who realize that at this time Satan's power will be exercised through believers who have not held the beginning of their confidence firm unto the end. Men are needed who acknowledge Christ as their master, who realize, as did Elijah and Jeremiah, that they hold their commission from God, and that they are accountable to Him for the use they make of the talents entrusted to them. Men are needed who can speak intelligently of the sacredness and importance of the truth, men who can point their fellow men to the needs of the present hour, men who have an inspiring message to bear against perverted principles, and who watch for souls as they that must give an account. To every man his work. Men of varied gifts are needed. In the building of the tabernacle, different lines of work were assigned to different ones, but all worked under the supervision of God. The Lord gives men talents that will enable them to carry forward special lines of work. Each one is to be allowed to do the work for which he is fitted. It is the Lord's purpose that there shall be unity in diversity. He endows men with different degrees of capability, and then places them where they can do the work for which they are best adapted. The trust given to each worker is proportioned to his ability. While traveling in Switzerland, we passed by a large building in process of erection. Many men were at work. Some were bringing stone from the quarry, others were squaring, shaping, and measuring these stones, and still others were placing them in the building. In charge of the different departments were experienced workers, whose part it was to see that the work was done with care and thoroughness. Over all the men, superintending the work on the entire structure, was the master builder. United action and perfect order prevailed among the men, and the work moved forward rapidly. Everyone was doing something. I was told that in the mountains other men were felling trees for the timber needed in the building, and floating them down the stream. To me this was an object lesson of the way in which the Lord's work is to be carried forward. In His work there are many different branches. Workers of different talents and capabilities are needed. Everyone is to do his best, under the direction of the great head of the church. But there has been and still is great danger of one man meddling with another man's work, not from a desire to help him, but in order to confuse him. The Lord is not in this. He has not given to the one who is neglecting his own work the outlines of his brother's work. How can one improve the methods of his fellow worker by making suggestions and criticisms that only harass and discourage? If he will attend to his own work, the great teacher, though unseen, will take the oversight of the work that in his wisdom he has entrusted to other hands. What was Christ's answer when Peter asked him concerning the work of John? "Lord, and what shall this man do?" Peter inquired. And Jesus answered, "If I will that he tarry till I come, what is that to thee? Follow thou me." Today many are making the mistake that Peter made. They are so busily engaged in trying to arrange their brother's work according to their ideas that they neglect the work God has placed in their own hands. They lose all sense of the responsibility resting on them. He who attempts to unravel another man's work will find in his hands a tangle that he cannot straighten. Let every man stand in his own place, doing faithfully the work committed to him. It is the questioning, criticizing spirit cherished that puts so many workers in hard places. Let men humble themselves before God, feeling that it is a sin to criticize and condemn. Satan has snares prepared for the feet of the one who is eager to place himself where God has not placed him. How rapidly God's work would go forward if when a man received a work from God, he would put his own attention on the faithful performance of this work, and if the next man, receiving his task, would also do with humility and fidelity the work entrusted to him, perfecting it in the simplicity of true faith and earnest prayer. Let men cease to complain and criticize, and let them do their appointed work. Let them be guided by the Lord. Then the different parts of the work of God, varied in kind, and brought together by Christ, the master workman, will be found to fit perfectly. The threefold duty. To those bearing responsibilities in the work of God, this charge is given: the elders which are among you I exhort, feed the flock of God which is among you, taking the oversight thereof, not by constraint, but willingly, not for filthy lucre, but of a ready mind, neither as being lords over God's heritage, but being ensamples to the flock. In this charge there is a threefold duty. Feed the flock of God, by giving them His word and setting them a right example. Feed the flock of God, taking the oversight thereof, having a personal care for the blood-bought heritage committed to your charge, being ensamples to the flock, following Christ in self-denial and sacrifice, in the life revealing holiness to the Lord. All this must be done of a ready, cheerful mind, neither as being lords over God's heritage, tyrannizing over them. Let those who have been given responsibilities in the cause of God, who are set as guardians of their fellow workers, pray most earnestly for divine grace. Before they take up the work of the day, let them make a solemn covenant with God, promising Him that they will keep watchful guard over their lips, not speaking harshly, but kindly, to those who come to them for direction. Let them remember that they themselves are ever to be under the control of the Spirit of God, rendering prompt and cheerful obedience to His commands. Let them remember that they are living epistles, known and read of all men, and that because they are Christ's representatives, they are to be one with Him, ever looking to Him, and from Him receiving strength for every conflict. Oh, what a power a converted man, one who is transformed daily, can exert to bring blessing and gladness to those around him. Those who bear responsibilities in God's institutions are to grow in grace and in a knowledge of divine things. They are ever to remember that the talent of speech is entrusted to them by God for the help and blessing of others. It is left with them to decide whether they will speak words that will honor Christ, or words that will be a hindrance to those who hear. Oh, what a blessing are pleasant, sympathetic words, words that strengthen and uplift. When asked a question, one should not answer abruptly, but kindly. The heart of the one who is asking may be sorely grieved by a hidden sorrow, which may not be told. Therefore let the words of the one addressed be always kind and sympathetic. By a few well-chosen, helpful words he may remove a heavy burden from a fellow worker's mind. Review and Herald, 30th of June, 1904.